Hi, welcome to another Roboflow training movie. With this Canto Roboflow workflow that I'm going to demonstrate today, we are going to export information to a CSV file, so to a text file that is stored in a Cumulus table field. So we have a catalog that has a table field with some values in it and a date. And we are going to search for a particular number of records within a certain period of this date. The syntax of such a query is you select a field, you say up to a certain date and from, or the other way around, from up to. And what is important to notice is that is the format of your date. You have no control over the format it uses, so you have to specify this particular format. In the interface this is easy because you can select it, but in the Roboflow workflow you will have to make sure that this same format is used to do your searches. How does it work? Well, if I go to Roboflow, I created a workflow which is a hot collection template, which is a workflow that works on a Cumulus query. This query, where did I get this query, or how did I make this query? Well, all I did is I constructed it here. I went to advanced mode and automatically this interface has built it for you. So I'm using the external distribution field, date subfield, table field to do the search on, and yes, this ugly syntax is the GUID, or the unique identifier internally in the catalog that it uses to find, to know exactly about which field it is, and this makes it language independent. So you just build this query here, copy paste it and put it in, test it and put it, if it's good, in your Cumulus query. To make it a little bit easier for the user if they want to play around with the date, I created two extra fields here, a from date and a to date, and notice that I stripped away the time part of the date because in this example I only want the user to set a specific date where from which they want to run this workflow, and I gave an example of the syntax that I noticed in my Cumulus environment. So it could be that this syntax is different for your installation. If it's maybe in Australia or in the US, it might have a different syntax format for that area. I added those $tag to date and $tag from date. I added in there so nobody has to touch this query. If the user wants a certain period of time, all they have to do is modify it in here. How does it look internally? Well, the first thing I do is for every loop I test if this is the first item of the loop. If it is, I store create the export folder. So we're going to export a text file with containing the information. So we have a parameter here that says that in the application folder I have an export distribution report. You can put it wherever you like. I specified it relative to your Roboflow installation. And then the next step is that I create an export using the export folder, the from date and the to date, and a unique date time. I create the file name to which I'm going to export. Then I create the header or the columns that I want to add to that file with a character return. So I'm creating that variable and then writing that variable to the Cumulus, to that text file. And so this, why does it has a prefix with global? Normally the variables that you create, the tags that you create, the results, are only visible to this particular record that is processing. I want to have this across all records, so I prefix it with, when I create it, with this tag global, which makes it available throughout the whole workflow. So I've written the header, and only the first time, only for the first item of the loop. And then the next thing is that I open the table record field, and automatically I notice that I forgot something. Whenever you open a table field, you also have to close it. So I'm going to add this instruction right now. So I'm going to close the table, and of course, since it was opened and we gave it a name, it knows the name of the tag and it proposes it to you. So now it's fine. So we open the external distribution history field, which is this particular field here below. We open it. It's an item collection technically inside Cumulus, and so we give it a name, and then we process the records of this table. You can have an additional query. Maybe, for instance, you want only the records for a particular in this case company. Then you could add that query here. In this case, it's we want all records because we already did the selection. Oh, and yes, that reminds me, we did not. So what we need to do here is the following. Actually, here in your table, I want to export the usage within a certain period, but a record can have a usage that falls in that period and have an item that falls outside that period. In my report, I don't want the ones that fall outside that period. So what I have to do here is I have to copy this query, and I have to go here, and in here I have to specify it again, and of course modify it. I am already in the external distribution history field, so I'm removing that, but I do need the date to test on. So the to date and the from date, have to be careful, has to be inside scripts. We are using the hash and not the dollar. Only in the parameters you use the dollar if you want it to be executed only inside the script later on. And the same goes for this one. So this makes sure that we not only select the record that falls within that date, but also the items in this table that fall within that selected period. So this is the additional query to add, and again here changing this into the hash, which is the normal way to address variables. And then I can say every item inside this loop, this processing of every record, will be called a table item. And then the next steps are just to get those field values. I'm getting the date and I'm storing it under an output variable called item date. I'm getting the approved by field, etc., etc. I'm repeating that for all the fields I want, and then I'm concatenating all these fields. So I want the record name, so I'm getting the record, I'm getting item date, item receipt, all those variables that I prepared, and then I'm simply writing that field, that variable to the database. And as I said here at the end, I'm closing the database. So very straightforward. All we have to do is start the process, and it will create the report we requested. So I can say, I can have a look what it did. It processed, it found 4 records that concur with that particular selection, and it exported them and sent the email to the person. Here, why did it send the email? Because it was configured here to notify by email, and in the email message, what we did is I added here a special placeholder in this one that says email file tag. So the file that I created, I'm specified in here, the tag, so that I will receive this in my email. So if I have a look in the email, in my email, sorry, where's my email? Here's my email, and I say pick up, I can see that here I have a mail nicely stating which period that I wanted and having a tab limited text file that I could open from here, or you could also see in the folder that I'm exporting to that this particular file is oh sorry, it was this one, was just created moments ago. And if I open it with Excel, that's why I created a CSV to be able to open it in Excel, I can see that in my Excel I nicely have the file names, the date, the format of the date you don't have a control over at this point in this version, so it exports it in whatever format Java is configured to work with, and then the different other columns. So this was an example of how to work with table fields, searches on dates, and how to process table field records. Thank you for joining, and see you in another movie.